Hey friends, welcome to our Studio One Mixing Masterclass. I'm happy you are here. My name is Eric Miller from Miller Music, and today we're going to be discussing how to do a full mix inside of Studio One from start to finish. And this is really the conclusion of our Song in a Month challenge. So what the Song in the Month challenge was we were recording a song from beginning to end, and in each week we had a different part of the process, whether it's drums or bass or pianos or guitars or vocals. This is the final conclusion of that, doing a final mix of the entire song that we used in the Song of the Month challenge. So, by the way, if you have missed any of those videos, there's a link below the description to watch any of those videos. I created a playlist there for you. So also I want to apologize because this was supposed to be a live stream and I had internet problems. So this is actually going to be, I'm posting this as a video, even though it was supposed to be a live stream. So I'm going to kind of make it like that, a live stream. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment below and I will get back to you and just answer those in the chat below. Okay. Also, I want to encourage you to stick around to the end of the video because I have one thing that I think is really going to help you to make better music. And whether that is your home studio setup or producing professional recordings or just getting a better recording workflow. And that one thing is learning to do it alongside other people, collaborating with other musicians. You know, I think right now there's so much information out there, but if you can learn to do something along with others in a community setting, that is really going to help you to achieve your goals. And I have something that I've created exactly for that, and that's called the Miller Music Club. So I'm going to be talking about that at the end of this video. So I encourage you to stick around to the end because I have some special bonuses that go alongside that. So let's jump into the content today. We're talking about Studio One Mixing Masterclass, and I really have 5 parts of this process. 5 parts of the mixing process that I do. So I'm inside of Studio One. You can see my screen right now. And I'm going to walk you through these 5 steps, okay? So the first step is really track organization. And since we've been doing this song from the beginning, I've kind of worked in this track organization. So what I mean by the track organization is everything when you visually see it is really easy to navigate. Okay, so for example, I have the bass here in purple. So each instrument has its own color. The guitars here are in blue, and I have a folder here. So if I open up this folder, you can see that I can see all the guitar tracks within it. And by the way, there's a really handy little button here inside of Studio One. Up here at the top, it's the toggle zoom button right there. And when you click that button, okay, it'll automatically show you like the entire screen all in one view. So it's kind of helpful to see that. Okay. Then down here I have my keys. I can open up the keys, and then you can see the 2 different keyboard tracks. If you want to change color or create a folder, it's really simple. What you do is you just highlight 2 different tracks, you right click on them, and then you click pack folder. Okay, and that's going to prompt you to create a name for your folder, and then you can just close or open up the folder that way to create your folder. Okay, finally we have a vocal track down here below in green. And by the way, if you want to create a new color, so what you're going to do is just highlight and click shift on the first track and on the last track, and then you go over here where the select track color, and then you can just navigate. I have it in yellow, but if you want to do orange or whatever color you want to use to make it pretty, you can do it in there. Oh wait, I don't want yellow because that's my keys. So what color was it? I think it was green. So we'll go back to green, but now my keys are green, so I screwed this all up here. So let's just close this out, and we're going to open up the keys track to fix that. Yeah, we want to just make sure that this is all yellow, so I'm going to do the same thing. Click this track, hold down shift, and then we're going to go back to making that all one color. Okay, now it's pretty. You can see it. And then if you go to the track view, you can see the same thing. So like now I can easily navigate through, and I have all my tracks in the same color. Okay. So it's just just really easy. And if that's not working for you, if you click the options, there's a little gear icon, ear eye contact over in Studio One up in the top right corner. And down here it says just check off colorize channel strips, colorize plugin header. That way you can see that everything is going to be the same color. Okay, so that's really track organization. Up top, you can also add an arranger track, which we did in the first video. So this labeled our different sections so I can easily navigate to a verse, a chorus, anything like that. I also have a chord track, which is really helpful. So I can see, and which we also did in the first video. So you can go and just see which chords you're using. So it's just incredibly helpful, even during the recording process. Really helpful to have that. So if you want to go back to that first video to see how I created the chord track, you can do that there as well. Also, by the way, helpful for lead sheets. So if you want to print off a chord chart or something, if you have a chord track already made, you can use that. So that is really handy. Okay, so that is track organization. Step 2 in this whole part in the process is fixing your mistakes. All right, so what I mean by that is going through your audio and just, finding some different mistakes that you've created, maybe that are in the mix that you have to fix. So you can actually see, if I zoom in here, you can see this guitar track, and I'll just solo this out. There was actually some mistakes here because you can see how there's different edit points there where I had to fix mistakes. So if we listen to that, now it sounds like, but I think there was some timing issues. So I basically had to just move that. Okay, so just move this to fit, the timing. So I just moved that closer to the line. Or there were some other mistakes in here. If you can see down here, I copied and pasted another part. Anytime in Studio One, if you have a color here where you can see this is like a lighter blue, that means that's an overdub section where I edited it so it fix the mistake. So there's 2 tracks overlaid right there. So there's plenty of little spaces where you can go in, fix mistakes. Like for example, right here, there's a fade in. So you can see that. For some reason, I wanted to fade that track in. Let's see why. So if I just solo that track here, we'll go over to this section here. Yeah, so I think I just wanted to fade that little part in, and then obviously if you want to fade out, let's just check this track over here. This is a fade out. So it you can see that it fades out like that. So that's really step 2, is fixing any audio sections, fixing any fade in, fade out that you have in your music. Also, it could be MIDI, so aligning MIDI properly. Let's say, for example, here's my bass track. If something wasn't aligned properly, it could be fixing that. Let me solo this out. It could be changing velocity. Let's say one of the... You wanted to make a note that's kind of obnoxious, but let's just say you wanted to make that note louder. So you could bring the level of that up. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back down because it doesn't sound good like that. But all these little details are going to help you make your mixing process so much easier, and it's helpful to get this out of the way right now. Also, if you want to if you had to quantize something, okay? you would select this whole section, like say for example, and then choose your quantization. So okay, so right now it's aligned, but the first thing that you want to do is make sure that your quantization settings are correct. So right now I would want to set it for 16th notes. So you go over to quantization, you click right over here, 116. So that's going to set it for that. And then you hit Q and it would align it. I've already done it, so it's already aligned. But that would be another example of fixing your mistakes. Okay, so MIDI information that's out of alignment, drums, things like that. Okay, so always a good idea to do that. All right, so that's step 2, fixing your mistakes. Okay. Thirdly, as we start to get into the more fun stuff. Okay, so once we've fixed our mistakes, we can kind of get into more fun stuff, which is actually setting levels and getting things to sound good. Okay, so I have disabled all of the effects on here, so there's no effects going on here. So really what I want to do initially is to let me so you can go back and see everything here. I want to make sure that all the levels are good, and what I mean by levels is panning and just having everything properly be balanced. So let's give the song a little bit of a listen as we begin to mix this, okay? I'm going to start with just the guitars. Here's a song you've written on my heart. It's a reminder of just how faithful you are. All my days you've known from the start. Where would I... Including in this level is panning. So if I open up the mixing window, I do have the panning already set up. So in the guitar tracks, for example, you can see all of these and see how they're panned. So I have some of the guitars panned a little bit right, some of them panned a little bit left. That's really going to help you in setting up your levels. So really you want to create this balance in your mix so that you have, you know, an equal distribution of stuff on the right and stuff on the left, especially with your keyboards, your guitar tracks. This will help it to be less muddy in your mix, especially in that low mid area. Without you, I long to hear from you in your word that speaks the truth, teaching me the Father's will. So the vocals seem a little quiet. I'm going to bring those up a little bit. Where would I be without you? So I put my trust and faith into your holy name. There's a hope that's found in you that'll never change. No matter what comes my way, I see your gift of grace. Now, when you're setting your levels here, sometimes you might want to start with just mixing the guitar, starting with the rhythm section first. So you could just start with the bass and the drums and get a little bit of a good level there. And then you could add in guitars. So I was just getting a feel for the basic song without doing that yet. So, and then maybe I'll go back and do that a little bit. But so let's do that. Let's just get the guitar, the bass and the drums. By the way, there's a really cool track list up here. This little line, 3-4 lines up here. If you click on that, it'll open up what you want to see visible. Okay, and you can see over here that I have a few tracks right here. These are the original tracks when I started the song, and I have some guitar tracks over here, but I'm not using them anymore. So I'm just going to hide them. It's important to keep them muted so that you don't hear them if you have them hid. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit, you're going to be hearing sounds and not seeing them in the mixing window. But I use this a lot to clean up my tracks. But so we have bass and drums. And generally speaking, I want to have the bass, the kick drum and the bass around the same level. Right now it seems like the bass could come up a little bit. So we're going to bring it up. That seems pretty good for now. We're going to get the guitars in there. That lead part seems a little loud, so I'm going to bring it down. Oh, let's undo that. If you have everything selected there, it's going to move everything together. So if I have both of these lead parts and I bring them down, it's going to bring them down both equally. All right, that's feeling pretty good to me now. Let's add the keys in. And so for keys, I have, just so you can see, I have basically like a Rhodes. And then I also have in here the MIDI. So this is a kind of that paddy sound. And again, for this, I'm going to probably pan these. Let's see if I did that. I did not. So interesting. Let's experiment with that. All right, that seems a little bit, you don't want to pan it all the way like that. Yeah, that's kind of nice. It just gives it a little bit more space. Let's see what it sounds like with the guitars now. So bring the guitars back in. Okay, so that's feeling pretty good in terms of levels. Let's bring the vocals in. So I'm going to... So there's a guitar part that's conflicting with the vocals, so I want to bring that down here. I'm going to take this solo off. Yeah, so that's just a little bit loud. Now, the vocals seem a little bit quiet, but what I'm going to do in the next step, when we add effects, it's going to make those pop a little bit more. You're going to see when we add some compression in there. So I kind of know that ahead of time, but yeah, so I just want to let you know that. So that's really step 3, and you can spend quite a bit of time in this step, just getting a good mix. I think it's really important to get your level and your mix sounding really good, and you can spend a little bit more time rather than jumping really quickly to effects. Okay. But that's what we're going to do now. This is step 4. We're going to be adding different effects to your mix. And I have a specific way that if you've only watched any of my videos before, that I like to do for this, and that's using bus channels. I just think it's a faster way to just add effects. So you're going to do things kind of globally, if that makes sense. So I have right over here, you'll see if I go all the way to the end, I have 3 different bus channels. So I'm going to highlight these over here. These are the guitar bus, the vocal bus, and the drum bus. Okay, so you can see that I have these effects on here, but they're all grayed out because I haven't added anything to them. So really quickly, to create a bus, you can highlight all of your tracks, right-click on them, and click Add Bus for selected channels. You can also do an effects track. That's going to be the same thing, really, for this purpose. Okay, so and then once you have this bus track, then you can add all of your effects onto them. Okay, so we're going to just solo these out. First, this is the drum bus. So that's the drum bus, and I just have some reverb on those drums, and I see that kick drum, I do not like all that reverb. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over to the kick right here, and then we're gonna select drum bus, and we're just gonna choose the main. So what that did was it didn't apply that reverb to the main to the bus. Okay, that's cool. Let's pretty simple. Just some basic plate reverb on that. Let's see what the guitars sound like with I have right here. We'll see. I'll show you what the effects I have. So on the guitars, I have a Pro EQ and then an analog delay. So on the Pro EQ, you still hear that kick drum coming through, so we're going to mute that. Whoops. So that is my fat channel. So we are going to go back to the guitar channel. Okay. So I just have a low pass and a high pass filter set up. There's not much going on here. I wanted to keep the original sound of the guitars, but just to make sure, like, no unnecessary highs or lows, especially if you have reverb. Sometimes you can get a little unnecessary low end there. And then here is the analog delay. It just gives it a little bit more warmth, I feel like. This is without. And then you can hear when I stop it. It just warms up the guitars a little bit. So that's what I have on the guitar track. So everything is being routed through that, and those effects are on here. Let's listen to the vocals. I think this is the most dramatic kind of effects here. So this is just the vocals. Savior, Savior, forever save. So that's with the effects. This is without. Savior. So you can really hear what those effects do. I always like A-Bing things by clicking the effects on, then the effects off. It's really trust and faith into your holy name. Then off. The hope that's found in you that'll never change. Back on. And no matter what comes my. So this is what I have on the effects chain here. You can see first is a fat channel. So I have fat channels FET compressor with a 4:1 ratio. I see your endless grace. And then their vintage EQ, which I think sounds really cool. It just gives it a nice effect. I boosted the high end a little bit, and then I did a little bit of a cutoff at the low frequencies. You are my forever sake. And then there's also obviously reverb on there. So this is the room reverb with a plate setting. Savior. If I let me turn that off so you can hear it. So okay, so this is without the delay and without the reverb. Savior. Then if I add that back in. Forever Savior. So I like the plate reverb. It just gives a nice reverb tail without I don't know, the spring reverb kind of adds a lot of extra harmonics. I feel like I just like this flat plate. And then at the end of that I have a Savior, 'cause you are mine. So that analog delay, which again warms it up, not too much, 4.5 for the dry wet, and a 15%. You can see here for the ratio, and a sync is a quarter note. I like to sync things usually to give that rhythmic delay. Of course it's quarter notes and the tempo is pretty slow at 90 BPM, so it's more of a kind of warm effect. Holy name. The difference between analog delay and digital delay is digital is very precise, whereas analog I feel like just gives it not quite as precise and more of a warm quality to the sound. Okay, so that is, let's give a listen now to everything in the mix with all the effects in it. We still haven't done the master fader, which we're going to do in step number 5, but let's. There's a hope that's found in you that'll never change. What happened to my drums? Something's going on here. I think the drum bus is muted and the guitar bus. And no matter what comes my way, I see your endless grace, 'cause you are mine. So now I'm actually going to bring the vocals down a little bit because they popped out so much with the adding that compressor on there. Forever Savior, Savior. And we lost our kick drum, so let's get back the kick drum back there. Savior, forever Savior, Savior, 'cause you are my forever Savior. Let's go back to the second chorus. Yeah, so that's sounding good. By the way, I always save my work just in case. You never know. And then finally, we have step number 5, which is the master fader. So over here in Studio One, you have your master fader checks. And then the first thing that I love to do is this little mix effects. Okay, before we add anything else, you can add this kind of like console shaper, which is really, really neat. Okay, for this one I have the CTC1, and you can, once you add this, it automatically gives like a shape to a console. So if I just scroll through these, this is classic. Wow, I actually have this custom now, whatever this setting is, and I think it makes things pop a lot more. Yeah, it's very clean and crisp with this. So I'm just going to go with this now. I like that. So that's that. That's because it's on the main out, it's going to affect the whole track, okay? And then lastly, I have the limiter, okay? And this level meter here. So the limiter is, you would only apply this if you are really doing, like, if you're not going into the mastering section. If you're going to master your song, I would take the limiter off because that's the job of the mastering. But this is going to be adding, bringing it up to the proper levels. So let's see what this is going to be a little bit louder now because I've added 6 decibels of gain, set the ceiling to -1 and the threshold to -1. So. And by the way, we're kind of shooting for, -1. So if I go to the level meter up here, so we can see that that's about -1 dB, okay? Okay, so that's the 5-part step of mixing that I have. And I find this really works well in terms of getting a consistent mix and setting up your mix that way. All right, so I want to share a quick story with you. If you guys don't know that I also teach music production at a local college in my area, and one of the main assignments that I give each semester to the class is a collaborative songwriting project. And what this is I assign like a group of 2 or 3 students to write an entire song from the beginning to the end, including lyrics, music, the whole thing, and then they have to record the whole thing and then present it to the entire class at the end of the semester. So it takes about a month to do this assignment, and it's always really interesting. I've been doing it for several years now, and it always ends up being a fun, really encouraging project for students to share their music and to actually have something at the end of class that they're proud of, that they can share the entire class and their friends. They have something even for a demo that they can use. And it's kind of an interesting project because in the beginning of the project, they kind of start off and it's a little awkward. They don't know each other. They're trying to figure out what kind of song to write, what kind of styles they like, who is good at what. I try to match the students by like instruments. So like there's not 3 guitar players in a group. There's like a guitarist, a vocalist, and maybe someone who has more experience producing, so that their skills sort of complement each other. And what ends up happening is as they work through the project and they get into it, they start getting really excited about the project and they start having a lot of fun, and they also start to learn a ton because I really feel like the learning happens in the collaborative space, in the place where they're learning together. Doesn't happen as much when I'm giving a lecture as much as I'd like to think. They are learning more when they're getting hands-on and they're getting dirty and they're like really into the project, doing it for themselves. So that's when the learning happens. That's when the passion starts to build and the excitement, and then finally at the end when they have something to share. And it was because of that project that I really got inspired to start the Miller Music Club. And what the Miller Music Club is, it's an online community of musicians, producers, guitar players, to do really the exact same thing, is to learn together, to really kind of hook arms, so to speak, and really learn this stuff together. Because, now we have this explosion of information. There's so much information between AI, between YouTube, between blogs, whatever, you name it, the internet. You can get information pretty easily now, very easily. But what you don't get with all that is a group of musicians to kind of collaborate with, to learn alongside of, to ask questions. So that is what the Miller Music Club gives you. It gives you a foundation, a platform to show up, to ask questions, to learn along other people, and then really at the end of this thing, you have something that you're proud of. You can learn how to record professional music. You can have a workflow for your music that is reliable. And you also have, a home studio that works, that you can really get into, and you learn all of this inside of the Miller Music Club. So what I'm going to do is just kind of show you around the club. So as you can see here, this is sort of the home page, if you will. This is what you first look at once you log into the club. Inside you have various topics, so you can see different topics. So we have several different topics. We have, like, first of all, when you first join, you're going to introduce yourself, get to learn some of the other members, get to just know who's inside the club. There's a place for general discussion, just to ask questions. There's the new music production roadmap, which is like a course in and of itself inside of the club. So this production roadmap is like a kind of 7-step system to recording professional music in your home studio. Also talks about workflows and your home studio setup, what equipment you kind of need for that. So that's in it of itself very valuable. The monthly live streams. So we do once a month, we meet live, and we talk about what's working, what's not working, questions we have. I usually do a topic that we'll be talking about in that live stream. So I'll go through like a little topic you can talk and ask questions about. So that's a really cool way to connect with other musicians. There's a place inside of the club where you can collaborate with other musicians. If you need a singer or a drummer, you can just ask inside the club for that. There's also a place where you can share your music. So if you have some music you want to share, whether it's like you've just released a new album or something, you've just released a song, you can do it right inside of that topic place. And then finally, there is a bonus section where I have a bunch of resources that I post there, additional videos, additional tutorials, and different things that I have that are bonuses that you can go through that on your own. Okay, so I want to offer you, there is a special offer that actually ends this coming Friday, June 20th. And what that is it's a 30-day free trial of the Miller Music Club. So if you go to the link in the description below, you just click on that link, it's going to bring you to this page. Okay, so this is like their homepage. Kind of brings you, through what it's all about. Down at the bottom, there's a little link. It says free 30-day trial. You can click in here and you can have it free for 30 days. After that, it is $7 a month, and shows you everything that you get inside, kind of what I've just been talking about. Or you can get the yearly subscription, which is $70 a year, which is 2 months for free. So highly encourage that. I think just because of this community aspect it's really a great asset to have as you're trying to make music from your home studio, as you are wanting to get songs that sound really good and professional and just get a really good workflow. The Miller Music Club will help you do just that. All right. So I also want to just recap what we talked about in the Masterclass today. So we really talked about 5 steps of the music production, like mixing in Studio One. Okay. So those 5 steps are, the first step is track organization. So track organization does everything from, just labeling all of your tracks so they're grouped together. You have your guitars, your pianos, your drums and your keys and your vocals all in the same color, in the same place, grouped together, so it's going to make it much easier to mix. We also talked about having an arrangement track, so you have all your sections, your verse, chorus, everything labeled through that. Even the chord track you can use in that process. The second step is to edit any mistakes. So if you have mistakes in your audio, something's not aligned properly, you want to do a fade in or a fade out, you can do it in this section. And finally, that basically that's all of fixing your mistakes. This is going to make your mixing process so much easier. The third step is what is the third step? Setting levels. So setting levels would be going into your mixing board, making sure each instrument is the right level. Everything sounds good pre-effects. So you don't want to have any effects in yet. So you just want to get a good, honest mix, including panning. So panning your track, right and left, what you're going to be doing with that. And then finally, the fourth step is really the fun part, which is starting to add effects. We talked about using the bus tracks for that, and then applying all of your effects to one bus. So you'd have your guitar bus, your drum bus, your vocal bus, and to save time, you can just really add all the effects globally onto that bus to be, just using it to affect all those other tracks. So that's step 4. And then step 5 is finally the master fader. If this is going to be for like if you're not mastering your music, if you're mastering your music right inside of the song page within Studio One, you can apply a limiter to your master fader and then set it for -1 dB for the ceiling. And then you can boost up your audio until it reaches that -1 dB. So a lot of times it might not be loud enough. And then of course, if the ceiling is set to -1, it's going to let nothing go over that. And we also talked about adding your mix effects in, which is a really cool feature to get it to sound like an old console. So you can do that in this stage as well. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment below on any part of this, whether it's the mixing we talked about or the Miller Music Club. I'd be happy to answer those. Apologies again because this was not a live stream, because the live stream wasn't working, but I kind of tried to design this video as if it's a live stream. Thanks for watching till the end, and I hope to see you on the next video and inside the Miller Music Club. All right, take care.